If you're not so much into fashion but you're into watches, you may have been introduced to today's guest's brand Rowing Blazers through their collaboration with Seiko. Or perhaps it was their collaboration with Tag Heuer. Or Zodiac. These three pieces were all a part of the brand founded by Jack Carlson, which actually began as a book, which was launched by none other than Ralph Lauren. Crazy stuff, I tell you. Neither Jack nor I could have predicted something like this, and it gets better. Jack later sold a majority stake of the company to none other than Chris Birch, fashion mogul Tory Burch's ex-husband, and now Carlson serves as the creative director of one of the most storied brands in the United States, J. Press. Obviously, I couldn't wait to chat with him and find out whether or not that convertible G-Wagon on his recent Instagram post is his. I'm your host, Wesley Smith, and you're listening to the Standard Age Podcast.
I just got back from California yesterday, and then today I got up early this morning and came up to New Haven. So I'm in our New Haven store. This is like the birthplace of J Press,
Yeah.
but it's it's like a fully functioning retail store. So I'm in the like back stock room to do this call. So
Oh,
here we
that's
are.
great. No, I
Yep.
appreciate you taking the time. I want to talk to you. We're going to take this one backwards because I saw in your Instagram post that you seem to be in Sausalito or just over the bridge in San Francisco. If you were there on Friday, I was too.
Yeah, I spend a lot of time in Sausalito. I have a house there. I've been
Oh, cool.
sort of restoring. It's like I don't know, late 19th century house
Amazing.
that I've been restoring for the past like 3 years or so.
Wow.
And when I sold Rowing Blazers, I thought actually I would kind of take some time away from the industry, or maybe just be done with this crazy world,
Oh, yeah.
and be based in Sausalito. But J Press came calling, and here I am. But I still spend a good amount of time over there,
Oh,
and I
that's
love it.
that's
And I
great.
was there on Friday. In fact, Friday was a beautiful day,
Unbelievable
as you
weekend.
know, in Sausalito. It's been gorgeous there for several weeks now. But I spent the morning looking at potential retail locations for J Press, mostly in the city in San Francisco. And then yeah, spent the afternoon and the evening just with a bunch of friends in Sausalito. I found this amazing little place. It's called Valhalla Sign Writers, and it's this lady. She's been there for 30 something years in this little shed. It looks like something from like a fairy tale. And she has the Swiss flag flying and all these hand painted signs because that's what she does.
Wow.
And it's right in the shipyard, the Marin shipyard in Sausalito. And you're going through all these shipping containers, and then boom, there's just this little wooden cottage with a Swiss flag, and there's like butterflies and bluebirds flying around.
Wow.
I thought I was like in a dream. But it's the most Sausalito thing ever. And she hand paints all the like boat names on people's boats, and like quarter boards for people's houses, and hand painted signs for people's businesses in Sausalito. It's the most
Yeah.
Sausalito thing ever, and that was part of my Friday when you
That's
were there
great.
too. The next
Yeah,
time you're there, you got to check it out.
yeah, it's funny because I went up there to shoot some photos for my brand and it was just epic weather. The light was insane. And then I saw you post like basically I guess a sunset shot of the Golden Gate Bridge or something. And I was like, based on where you were standing, I was probably 2 miles from you at that moment, which is
Yeah,
just
that was
wild to
at
think about.
Presidio Yacht Club, Travis Marina. Have you ever been there?
Okay, once upon a time, yes. Yeah.
It's like it's called Presidio Yacht Club, but it's not in the Presidio. It's on the other
Right.
side of the bridge in
Yeah.
Sausalito. And it's I guess it still is a functioning yacht club, but anyone can go there, and it's a great vibe, great
That's
views of the
great.
bridge, and yeah,
Was the convertible G-Wagon yours?
that is mine.
Oh,
That's my California car. Yeah,
okay, sick. That's very Doug DeMuro of you. And I don't know
I
if
know.
you know
Well,
Doug.
I we've texted a little bit. I to be honest, I didn't really know that much about Doug or whatever, but after I got the G cab,
Oh yeah.
every single person is like, you need to meet Doug DeMuro. I think there are about 10 or 11 G500 cabriolets that are California legal. They would be imported and they would have to be converted to be they could either be 49 state or 50 state, like including California. And there may be like about 10 that were done for California. And he has one and I have one.
Yeah.
And there and I don't know, there are 8 other people out there. Someone told me Kobe Bryant had one. I think like one of the Jenners maybe has one.
Oh yeah.
I don't keep track, but it's a small, weird club of
Contingency.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought you were
Yeah.
gonna say there are 10 of you on like now a text chain or like a WhatsApp group.
We should all be on a text chain.
That's
Um,
really funny.
I think Lil Kim had one. Can you
Oh,
imagine that text chain?
that
Me,
all
Doug
aligns.
DeMuro,
This is all very
Lil
well,
Kim,
yeah, and then throw Doug in
R.I.P.
there.
Kobe. Yes.
That's
Um,
fantastic.
I am not sure if any of that's true, but that's what people tell me because people see it and people know that car.
Yeah.
Um, I I ended up with that car by accident. I went to a place in Newport Beach to I was gonna buy a Defender,
Okay.
like a 90s, mid 90s Defender. And like every few years, I'm like, oh, I should get like one of these vintage Defenders and went there and test drove it. And every time I do this, like every few years, it's the same thing. Once I get in it and I'm driving it, and it's like,
Oh yeah, it's a tractor. Yeah.
and it's like, it's raining indoors, even though it's a hard top. And, you try to rest your arm on there's not enough room this way for your elbow. So then you roll the window down, but then it's like up here. It's like, it's not really designed for anything practical at all. I mean, it's a beautiful car though, but
Right. Yeah.
I test drove it. I was like, actually, I don't know, man. But then he had that sitting on the lot, and I have always been a British car guy. Um, didn't really know anything about old G-Wagons or anything, but I was
Sure.
just like, "What is that?"
Yeah.
And he was like, "Oh, that's a G cab." I was like, "What's a G cab?" And he was like, "You should drive it." But he was like, "Warning, if you drive it, you're gonna love it."
Oh man.
So I did. And this is not knowing anything about Mercedes or what any of these cars. Drove it, loved it, thought about it for like 5 days, did a bunch of homework. I watched Doug DeMuro's videos
Yeah, you
without even
did.
knowing who he
Yeah.
was, and um and I was just like, okay, this is ridiculous, but I'm gonna do it.
Right. Right. What if I may ask, what was the price delta between the two? The
Massive.
D9, yeah, I was gonna say it's at least double.
More,
Triple? Yeah.
yes,
Okay.
beyond,
Okay. Yeah.
beyond,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
more,
Fair. Fair.
way more than triple, yeah,
Yeah.
more than
Okay.
triple. It was like a whole different thing. But
Yeah.
the guy who I worked with, Pat at Copley West in Newport Beach, he had warned me. He was
Yeah.
like, if you drive it,
Right. Right.
you're gonna have to buy it. You're
Yeah.
gonna be robbing banks and like taking out new mortgages and eating economy eggs for the next few years for every
Peanut
meal,
butter and
but
jelly.
you're gonna
Yeah.
need it. I eat
Yeah.
basically just peanut butter sandwiches every day anyway, so
Oh, that's
that's
amazing.
that's not even any savings.
Right. 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 It's kind of par for the course anyway. Um, where did you go to high school? Because you went to Georgetown, right? Is that how you know
Hmm.
Eric? We got introduced through Eric Wind. So
Hmm.
what was the high school?
I went to high school in Cambridge, Massachusetts.
Okay,
I
so you're
went
a
to,
Northeasterner. Okay.
yeah, kind of, kind of. My parents are both from Michigan.
Okay, got it.
They're from Detroit. Whenever we're traveling or whatever, and someone's like, "Oh, Detroit. Are you from Grosse Pointe? Are you from Birmingham? Are you from what's the other really nice
Grand
place?
Rapids.
Yeah, there's somewhere else I'm thinking of. Um, uh, anyway, they're always like, "No,
Right,
I'm from
right.
Detroit.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Detroit, Detroit." Just Detroit. Um, and all my like extended family still in the Detroit area.
Okay.
Um, I was born. I don't advertise this often. I was born in New Jersey. I was born in Summit, New Jersey.
Okay.
Um, I was just a little baby basically, but now when I talk to North Jersey people and I tell them that, they're always like, "Oh, Scummit."
Oh,
I think that's facetious. I believe it's a pretty nice place actually. But then we moved to London, and I basically grew up in London, um, for the first part of my life when I was a little kid. And
I see.
um, we moved to the Boston area when I was like 10, but we still would spend a lot of time in London, like for my dad's work and stuff. We'd basically spend all summer, every summer. Like all my classmates would go to like Nantucket and Martha's Vineyard.
Yeah.
We'd go to London, but it was great. I kept all my London friends, all my British friends from
Oh,
when I
that's
was a little
great.
kid, and
Yeah.
so I kind of, yeah, kind of. My sister had a little bit of a British accent. She's a little younger than me. I never quite got it.
Okay.
I sometimes hear a little Detroit accent even when I talk.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I
For a
could.
long time, I thought Saturday was a day of the week. I remember in school, I was like, "What?" We went through all the 7 days, but no one said Saturday.
You're
That's a
right.
Michigan thing, if you don't know.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I support the Celtics and the Red Sox, and
Okay.
kind of a Boston guy. Yeah,
Got it. Got it. That's cool though. International upbringing. And I'm sure. Um, so what did your dad do? What was he doing in England?
he. By the way, can I ask you a question?
You can
Is,
ask me anything you
is
want.
this isn't going to be on video, or is it?
This is not video. We will not show these racks behind you.
Okay, that's what I was asking for.
Yeah. Yeah. No
Um,
stress. No stress. Um,
yeah, my dad had a very has had continues to have a very interesting, colorful life in some ways, kind of the American dream. I mean, he grew up one of six kids. Um, he grew up in a house that, you know, had six kids, two parents and two grand. It was like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory type of situation.
okay.
No one in his family ever gone to college. His dad, my grandfather, worked at GM.
Of
My
course.
dad worked at GM on the assembly line. Um, and yeah, basically did well in school. And got into college. He went to Michigan Tech in Upper Peninsula. Then he went to Wayne State and got a scholarship to do a master's at University of Michigan in math. I don't know what happened to those genes because I'm not a math guy
Okay.
whatsoever. And
Okay.
then got a scholarship to MIT to do a PhD in meteorology,
Oh,
of all
wow.
things. And people hear that they're like, "Oh, so he's a weatherman."
Right.
I'm like, kind of like, I guess, kind of. Um,
He
my mom,
understands the weather.
he does like most weathermen. If he's like, it's going to be beautiful today, like bring your umbrella. Um, that's a stereotype of every weatherman, and it's true. My mom, like, kind of similar story. And she ended up going from growing up in Detroit to working on Wall Street in the 80s and kind of the great era of the yuppie.
Sure.
And my dad was making no money at all with his MIT meteorology stuff.
Of
And
course.
she got him a job on Wall Street also.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, he worked in finance, and he basically my dad used his, I guess, math and prediction modeling, whatever skills from meteorology, and took them into, to the
Investment.
markets. And
Yeah.
he he sort of created the business of these large institutions um, having mutual funds that invest in developing countries.
Oh, interesting.
And that was kind of, yeah, emerging markets as they
As
call
they
it.
call it. Yeah.
So that's what he did. So I got to travel with him a lot as a kid growing up. We spent a lot of time in Turkey and Argentina, in
Wow.
all over the place, all
Yeah.
over the place. We
So was
almost
that?
moved to Japan when I was a little kid, and I
Oh
remember
yeah.
going over there and looking at, I don't know, I guess we were like looking at houses and seeing what the vibe was. But I went all over the place.
Wow. It was almost kind of a military upbringing in that sense, but not the military background, obviously. But yeah,
I
that's
don't know if
really
I'd say,
interesting.
I don't know if I'd say that, but it was a lot of fun. It was a
Yeah.
lot of fun, and I think it's impacted me in the way I look at the world a lot.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Inspired me to go. I went to Georgetown. I was in the School of Foreign Service. My plan, like many people at the School of Foreign Service, was to go into the Foreign Service and to work for the State Department. And many of my friends, many of my classmates, they work in U.S. embassies and consulates
Wow.
abroad and all over the world. And that was kind of my plan for a little while.
Well, so how did you get into archaeology then?
Well, I started studying Latin when I was, I don't know, I guess seventh grade,
That's so
and
what how why? Like you know what
got
I
way
mean? Like
into it.
that's
I
interesting.
had I had always loved ancient history, medieval history as well. I think growing up in England was kind of part of that.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
Like growing up in the UK, that's not that unusual that like you're going to study Latin, and I mean you have Roman ruins all over England.
Hmm.
So it's not that far-fetched, and I used to love going to museums and seeing whether it's Roman stuff or medieval stuff. I loved that. I used to read these books, Horrible Histories. You
Okay.
ever seen those?
I have not.
Look them up. They're like kids' books. I think there's the Rotten Romans, the Groovy Greeks, the
Okay.
Terrible Tudors, the, I don't know, other alliterative names.
My
Um,
daughter might get into these if I so present them to her. So this sounds
you
like something up
should,
her alley later.
you should check them out. Loved those books. I mean, they probably were part of why I wanted to study Latin and get into all this.
Yeah, sure, sure.
But I always loved it. Studied Latin all through middle school, high school, and I wanted to keep going at Georgetown. So I was in the School of Foreign Service, but and I did Chinese and economics, and you do a ton of government and IR and that sort of thing,
Hmm.
and modern history. Um, but I essentially kind of dual tracked it with a classics major as well.
Okay.
I took a great archaeology class, I think my sophomore year in college, and got way into it and found myself that summer going on a dig,
Wow.
um, and did it like the following summer and ended up saying I want to go to grad school for this and went to grad school. So Eric and I were classmates at Georgetown, and then we were also grad students at Oxford at the same time. Eric, maybe much more practical than me, was doing an MBA. I
Okay.
was doing a PhD in archaeology. Um, and that's how that whole thing came about.
Wow. So when you do a dig for the first time, is that already something in progress or is that the initial part? Because I would imagine if you don't find anything, that may deter you from going further in that line of
That
study.
might be
But
a bummer.
but
Yeah,
but but I presume you guys found something.
we found some cool stuff, man. I mean,
Yeah.
this was a dig that had been in progress for years.
Okay.
What's funny though is, anybody who goes into archaeology to some extent, from my generation, from the previous generation, for probably many generations, you're sort of inspired by Indiana Jones. Like you sort of have
Totally.
the Indiana Jones idea in your mind.
Uh-huh.
And this goes for everybody, by the way. Even people you wouldn't think like have ever even seen Indiana Jones, like people you'd think would really turn their nose up. There's the site director of this dig was I think he was a professor at maybe University of Texas or SMU, and was like this really old school UPenn guy. He just was like the perfect portrait of this like old school archaeology professor.
Right.
And you would never talk to him about Indiana Jones. It would be like mortifying.
Right.
And then one day, this is way back in the like early 2000s, right? But his cell phone goes off and his ringtone, which you probably had to figure out some way of I don't know, downloading the ringtone. It's not like you could just pick a song back then,
Yeah.
but it goes off and it's the Indiana Jones theme song.
Brilliant. Yeah.
And I remember similarly, one of the crustiest professors at Oxford, like this is like, Severus Snape of archaeology or whatever, like so deathly serious or whatever. Going into his office, he closes the door and he has a big Indiana Jones poster on the back of the door.
Oh
But anyway,
man.
all of this is to say everyone is so inspired by Indy, and it is absolutely nothing like that.
Yeah.
And this dig was co-sponsored by Franklin and Marshall College and SMU, which are both, I'd say, like one in the north and one in the south. Like they're both super like fratty,
Oh yeah.
like Greek life
Yeah. Waspy.
sororities,
Yeah.
fraternities.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of like privileged kids in these beautiful fraternity and sorority houses
Yep.
vibe.
Hmm.
And there are all these kids from all these schools who are like art history majors because they can get credit for it or something on these digs.
Yeah.
And they had no idea what they were signing up for. They thought this was going to be their like under the Tuscan sun summer, or they thought it was going to be like I don't even know what they thought it was going to be like. They're going to be like riding around on Vespas and it's going to be like
Yeah. They're getting their
Counts of Mr.
cardigans
Ripley or
dirty.
something. This you basically get up at 4:30 in the morning, 5 in the morning, and in this particular site, you climbed a mountain and you had to carry the water up the mountain. That was the biggest thing. That's your water for the day.
For the
You had
day.
to
Yeah.
carry the water up the mountain. And essentially then you're kind of like squatting down and you're brushing dirt from, 6:30 in the morning until like 4 p.m. with a little break. And by the way, in the break, the site is cleared. So there's no shade and it's like 100 degrees and you're on the top of a mountain.
Wow.
And it's not Indiana Jones and it's not under the Tuscan sun. I mean, you literally are under the Tuscan sun, but it's not
Right.
like
Right.
whatever movie version these kids thought they were getting into. And all the trench supervisors that year, I remember they're all Dutch. They're all from like University of Amsterdam and they were all in a metal band together, like a death
Sick.
metal band. And there'd be these sorority girls being like almost like trying to flirt or whatever, and they'd be like, "What's the best way to like find gold?" And these guys would just be like, "The best way to find gold is to stop talking and dig faster." And these girls would be like crying and stuff. It was overall it was a lot of fun, and I look back very fondly on those days. At the time, though, even I was like, "Oh my God!" Like maybe I'm more of like an armchair archaeologist.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's the
Yeah.
Indiana Jones quote? Like 90% of archaeology happens in the library.
Yeah.
Like, I want to read about statues and triumphal arches and palaces. And I'm like, we're brushing dirt and finding roof tiles.
Right. Right. Yeah.
If I find another roof tile, I'm gonna like jump off this mountain.
Right.
But we found some cool stuff too. I mean, you find coins occasionally, you find jewels. The coolest thing from this dig was like a little vase filled with exactly 100 silver Roman coins.
Huh.
And essentially what we think it was the Romans before they were conquering Britain and North Africa and, you know, Dacia and all these places, they were going out from the city of Rome and conquering the rest of Italy.
Hmm.
And um, they were conquering the Etruscans. This was an Etruscan site. And they would honor the local gods wherever they went. I mean, they are famous for this. They'd always honor the local deities. And so this, we believe, was like an offering to the local gods. And
Interesting.
it's very useful because coins are your key to dating a lot of stuff in Roman archaeology anyway, because they're
Okay.
so well documented. So this helped us like date
Site.
the time of the Roman conquest of that area.
Okay.
So that was probably the coolest thing. No statues though.
Right. That's cool though.
Yeah.
Okay, so the foray into fashion happened, I presume, through rowing. You rowed crew, and then the whole blazer thing we'll get to. But was there any fashion tips from Indiana Jones, a la an Alden boot, or was it a hat or the leather jacket, or you know?
Indy's got great style. It's not
Yeah.
my style. I don't know
Okay.
if I can pull that hat off. Walking around with a whip is kind of a whole other thing, you know.
There.
I feel like if you saw someone walking down the street with a whip, you wouldn't first think Indiana Jones.
No.
Um, but I was always kind of interested in clothes. I wouldn't say I was interested in fashion exactly.
Sure.
Um, but I was always interested in clothes and kind of the history, the meaning, the connotations. Growing up in Massachusetts in the early, like the 90s and the early 2000s, a lot of my classmates wore head to toe Abercrombie and Fitch every day.
Sure.
I didn't know much, but I knew I didn't want that.
Okay.
And I made a point of I never owned anything from Abercrombie and Fitch.
So you weren't
And
smelling of Woods cologne
just by hanging out with the other kids, I was by default. Um,
secondhand.
but I was always like, I wanted to dress in a way that felt more personal and that was a little more quirky and that was a little more eclectic. Like rather than going in a store and like, okay, I'm gonna get a bunch of shirts and a bunch of hats and a bunch of pants and a bunch of whatever, and I'm gonna be head to toe in this brand, which is
Yeah,
what everyone was doing. You know, at my high school, for example, with Abercrombie and Fitch in that era.
sure.
You know, for me, it was more like, okay, I want to wear this like weird vintage rugby shirt that I
Yeah.
bought when we went to Ireland or Argentina a few years ago. I'm gonna wear these like Umbro soccer shorts, even though I don't play soccer. That's what all my British friends are
Yeah.
wearing.
Yeah.
Or I'd go into my parents' closet and, you know, I just take like old Lacoste shirts
Yeah.
and stuff. And this was it. I don't know. This was probably in a low point for Lacoste as a brand. I don't know like the whole Izod thing. I don't know the whole story.
Yeah, sure.
But kids didn't even know. People are like, "What's the alligator?" I'd be
Yeah,
like,
I'm
"It's a
curious.
crocodile."
I'm curious as to what kind of attention this garnered. It was either positive or negative. You know what I mean? Like you're either getting side eye,
My
like
whole
what the heck
life,
is
man,
that? Or
my whole life, not just my clothes, but just in general. People love me or they hate me, you
oh,
know,
is that right?
before they've even met me.
Oh,
Yeah,
interesting.
100%, a
Oh,
hundred
wow.
percent.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
Huh.
people just, I don't know, they just see me coming and they make up their mind.
How tall are you?
I'm 5'9", which is funny you ask that because I used to like, you know, a lot of guys will lie about their height and say they're a little taller than they
Yeah,
are.
5'9 3/4, like I say.
Yeah, I'm basically six.
I say I'm
Um,
5'10.
I used to lie
Basically
that
six. Yeah.
to say that I'm a little shorter because we haven't
Okay.
talked much about rowing, but I was a coxswain in the sport of rowing,
Right.
which is I don't know, you know, how much you know about the sport, but the coxswain is the guy that steers the boat, makes
Yeah.
the calls, and it's the little guy. Like the stereotypical thing is like a rowing team. It's a bunch of guys who are like 6'5", 6'6", and then there's one guy that's like 5'4",
You're
and
diffusing the air.
that's the coxswain. You're the guy. You're sort of like dead weight in the boat, so you want
Hmm.
to be as small as possible,
Yeah.
or as light as possible. Let's say there are minimums. You can't just put like a little tiny kid in the boat
Right, right. A 10-year-old. Yeah.
at the World Championships or something. But like, you know, the minimum weight is 121. It's 55 kilograms at the sort of elite level.
Okay.
But you basically want to be walking around the world at like 110. And then what you do is the weigh-in is 2 hours before the race. You want to drink water. You want to drink like 10 or 11 pounds of water so that you can just for that 2 hours before the race barely hit 121, get
Wow.
certified that you're good to go for the race. And then you want to go to the bathroom and go pee and lose all the water and then be lighter for the race.
It's the opposite of wrestling. This is interesting.
This is like, I don't know. I don't know if there's minimum weights for jockey, but it's often
Uh,
compared to being a jockey.
Yeah, yeah, I was thinking that as well. Yeah.
I prefer saying it's like being the race car driver in, F1 or something. Like the rowers are the engine of the car, and we all know the car matters a
Yep.
lot,
Yep.
but then also the driver matters a lot. Um, I don't know that it's as sexy as being an F1 driver. Actually, I do know, and it's not.
Okay.
But uh, but I was really too tall and too big to be a coxswain. I
Okay.
essentially did an eating disorder for like 3 or 4 years. That's a whole
Wow.
other story.
Yeah,
And I'm
sure.
dead serious. I mean,
Yeah,
I
no,
would
I
like
believe
basically
you.
not eat for days and days. I spent 6 or 7 hours a day on the bike for
Wow.
years. For years and years, I would do this like every day. Oh, six
Stationary bike
six
or were
days
you
a week.
outside?
Usually stationary bike, and you know, dude, I would watch every movie, every TV show, every episode of like The Wire, Breaking Bad, Friends, everything that you are supposed to have watched for like cultural knowledge, but like realistically, who has time to watch every single thing? Like you can't. You know, of the top 100 movies that everyone's supposed to have watched and so on, I watched everything. I listened to like every podcast. I did it all because you're just on the bike. You're going a
Wow.
little too hard that you can't really. I would sometimes do like send a few emails or you can text friends, whatever, but you're going a little too hard to like do serious work. Like I'm not writing
Yeah.
something serious on there.
Wow.
Um, but you're also not going so hard that you can't pay attention to like a movie or a show or something like that. So
Sure. Yeah,
that
yeah,
was
yeah.
my, that's that. And then you're sitting in a boat. Like that was my life back and forth for a long time.
Wow, that's crazy. Well, I'm curious. Okay, so you write this book, or it's an illustrated book on the Blazers of rowing that kind of, are talking about, these rowing teams. And my understanding is that there was like a pre-production not book that Ralph Lauren discovered or something. Like, is that
Yeah, basically,
how do
yeah.
you
So,
meet Ralph Lauren? That's crazy.
so basically, I had the idea of doing this book. Like I said, I had always been interested in clothes,
Yeah,
but in kind of a way that's more about like, what do they mean? What's the anthropological, sort of side of clothes?
certainly.
Um, And I had the idea of doing this book that brought together several of my interests. One, like menswear,
Yep.
two, the sport of rowing, and three, kind of history and heraldry, if you
Mm-hmm.
will.
Mm-hmm.
And that was doing this book about this really quirky tradition in the sport of rowing, which is every rowing club has these blazers, and they often have stories, anecdotes, traditions surrounding them. Like if you win these certain races, the club cuts down the curtains and makes you a blazer out of the curtains.
Oh,
Um,
interesting. Yeah.
if you're a member of certain clubs in the Netherlands, you're not allowed to wash your blazer ever. And the blazer gets handed down, like when you retire from the sport, you give it to a novice who's joining. So these guys can be walking around with blazers that are 100 years old and they've never been washed in 100 years. And these guys party hard in the
Oh,
blazers
yeah.
too.
Of course
So
they do. Yeah.
they like smell bad, they're like shredded. There are all kinds of weird stories. And I wanted to do a book that was kind of documenting these traditions. And this was my side project basically the whole time I was at Oxford, and then for a lot of the time post Oxford when I was kind of on the national team and stuff. This was my little weird side project. I wasn't sure it would ever turn into anything,
Yeah.
but I got a publisher. Uh, I even got a publisher that paid me a little bit of an advance on it. I
Wow.
thought must be like, some kind of a fluke. But it got even better because yeah, the publisher basically sent a copy of the galley or something to the Ralph Lauren offices,
Huh.
um, just to be like, this is a book that's coming out, that we're publishing. They're a serious publisher. This is a book that's coming out soon. We thought like Ralph Lauren might be interested, like in
Like to
carrying
sell it? Yeah.
to
Okay.
sell the
Yeah.
book. Yeah,
Yeah.
like
Sure.
they
Sure.
sell coffee table
Yep.
books in Ralph Lauren.
Yeah.
And it somehow ended up on the desk of Jerry Lauren, who's Ralph's brother.
Mm-hmm.
And head of menswear at Ralph Lauren for a long time. Great guy, super interesting. Um, I had never met him. I didn't know who he was. I'm like this 20 mid 20s archaeologist who spends half his time riding
Lugging
the
water
bike
up a
and
hill.
starving himself and
Yeah.
whatever doing all this other kind of weird stuff. I was not in the industry really at all. I just wanted to write this quirky book and made myself the expert on it.
Hmm.
But I got a call and yeah, it's Jerry Lauren. He introduces himself. I'm like smiling to myself. This is so crazy, but it was
You're
real.
Googling Jerry. Are you even Ralph's brother? Like, because like if you're not in the industry, you don't know
I thought
Jerry
I see
Lauren,
the call coming in. I was on a bike ride.
Yeah.
Actually, I was on an outdoor bike ride this time,
Okay.
like somewhere outside of Oxford, and I see a call coming in. I look at my phone. It says Ralph Lauren, and I pull over, and I literally think they must be calling me. I'm like, did I order something?
Right, sure.
Maybe
Customer service.
this is like early 2000s. This isn't like you just get an automated email. I thought maybe, yeah, maybe it's customer service. So I pull over and it's, hi, my name's Jerry Lauren. I'm Ralph Lauren's brother, and I'm the head of menswear here at Ralph Lauren. And he's like, did you write a book about blazers or something? I said, well, yeah, it hasn't come out yet, but yes. And he explains, someone sent me the book. It somehow ended up on my desk. And he goes, and I love it. And I've shown it to my brother, and he loves it. And we want to meet you.
Good God.
And he's like, are you in New York? Can you be in New York? Are you going to be in New York anytime soon? I'm in like Abingdon, England,
Yeah, you're
on the
like, I'm in
side
bike
of a
shorts.
road,
Like,
like rain pouring down, whatever. And I'm like, I'm going to be in New York next week. I'm making it up. I have no plans to be in New York
no
next week.
way.
I'm going to be in New York next week. I would love to meet Ralph Lauren and Jerry Lauren.
Yeah, you make that
And
happen. Yeah.
and that's what I did. I flew to the US. I met them. They were great, and they essentially said we want to be your partner to launch this book. And they hosted a series of book launches, and it was my first experience of working with any brand in this industry in any capacity. And they're very serious. I mean, there's no like half measures, I guess probably especially when it's coming from Jerry or of
Yeah,
course
the
from
the
Ralph.
goat. Yeah.
Like I'm on calls twice a week planning these events. They basically were like, you can invite as many people as you want, just give us names and addresses. They're sending like engraved invitations.
Sure.
It
Yeah.
was as if Ralph Lauren was just like, we're going to throw you like a wedding level
I
party.
was gonna say it's like a wedding. Yeah.
Nobody's getting married here, but it's just you and your book about these blazers, which, by the way, I mean, when I was working on this, I was like, this is the most niche topic ever. I was like, I'm going to just send it, beam it out to some publishers. If it gets picked up, great. If not, like, I'll turn it into a blog. I'll do a Tumblr. Like,
Sure. Yeah.
now this is like global book launch with Ralph Lauren. And that was the beginning of this whole adventure in menswear.
Wait, so did he inspire you to start an apparel brand, or did you kind of see the opportunity based on your book being in apparel stores?
I would say like the experience of working with Ralph Lauren and the success of the book, which like
Yeah.
I never would have imagined that. Um, both kind of inspired me to start a brand. And um, the other thing that happened too is like, of course, the rowing community, like everybody knew about this book,
Yeah.
and people were reaching out to me, being like, "Hey, so I'm gonna need your help to like make blazers for our club, and like here's the colors, and here's the," and I email back and be like, "Phew, dude, I'm an archaeologist. Like I don't know, I don't make blazers. I just wrote the book,
Yeah,
you
you don't
know."
even make books. Like,
And yeah, like I'm on the bike, 7 hours a day.
yeah.
And it turned out around that time, a lot of the really traditional tailors who were making blazers at Cambridge and Oxford and in the US and so on, where people were retiring, some people died.
Hmm.
It was kind of like no one knew where to get their blazer. I remember Princeton, maybe they still do this at Princeton for that matter. They they the people who had made their blazers like back in the day, like I don't know, went out of business or the guy retired or the guy died or whatever.
Right.
So they went to TJ Maxx and they bought a bunch of black polyester like suit jackets.
Yeah, sure.
And then they had like someone's mom sewed orange
The P.
like ribbon on the around the edge.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, sewed like a little shield on the, pocket. But it was the most janky thing ever. And yeah, it was a time basically when nobody was doing this. And so all of these clubs started reaching out saying, "Can you help me? Can you do this?" And this was another aspect to it. I was like, I want someone to be preserving this
Y-
tradition
Yeah,
and like
sure.
doing it the right way. We can't just have everyone is like doing TJ Maxx polyester suit jackets with someone's mom sewing stuff on it.
Sure.
And that's kind of what started this adventure. I actually after I graduated from Oxford, I became a high school teacher teaching Latin, ancient history, and I was the boys rowing coach. This was in Massachusetts at a boarding school. And spring break, I went down to New York, and through a mutual friend that I had met through the book and the Ralph Lauren book launch, he knew I had this idea, a vague idea of starting a brand, and he connected me with a bunch of people in the industry, including this guy David Rosenzweig, who became my co-founder. And David was such a character. He knew my book like cover to cover.
Great.
And he's today, one of my best friends, and we co-founded Rowing Blazers, and we ran it together for whatever 7 or 8 years.
Wow.
And that's yeah. I mean, so I met him. I met my co-founder through this whole thing with Ralph Lauren as well.
Okay, so David had more the ins and outs of the manufacturing because that was my next question. Like, how did you
David
find
will
that?
probably hate me saying this, but David was like an old school Garmento,
Oh, wow.
and um, he shared the vision that it's like we have to do this the right way. We have to, he looked at, I showed him all these vintage blazers. He was like, exactly, this is what we have to do. And this was like, we didn't even really know what we were going to do.
Yeah.
We had all these like, Princeton is emailing us and the British national team and the US national team, like major colleges,
It's so
like
sick. Yeah.
Yale, Georgetown, Cambridge. Because I'm like now the world expert in
Blazers.
blazers.
Yeah.
And I was too, but I just didn't, had never made them before. But David was like, we're going to do this. We're
Yeah.
going to do this. And like, we can turn this, we're going to go way beyond making blazers for Princeton. Like, we're
Okay.
going to create a whole lifestyle brand.
Yeah.
And that's what we did. And we started the day that we met, essentially, spring break of 2015, I guess it was. I was a high school teacher. I told him I'm planning to not be a high school teacher anymore after this. I was one and done. God bless all teachers out there. I don't know how they
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah,
The
totally.
kids were great. Um,
What school were you at?
a school called St. Mark's.
St.
It's
Mark's.
kind of the lesser known rival of Groton,
Okay.
but it's very old school New England prep
Yeah.
school, boarding school. Um, and as it happened, the one of the last days of the school year, I got a call from the national team coach asking me to come back onto the national team.
Wow.
Um, I accepted, having no idea that what I even weighed at the time, and it meant that I was going to have to lose 65 pounds in 2.5 months. I did it,
Really?
by the way, or 67 pounds actually in a little under 3 months, and I did
And
it.
this is also bike riding and eating disorders?
Yep,
Or
yep. I
Jesus.
don't advise it. I mean, this is,
Now
it's not good for your health.
like
Um,
that's Matt Damon level of weight loss for what I think Good Will Hunting. Or
it was
sorry,
not,
Talented Mr. Ripley actually.
it was not smart. It was not healthy, but it was, I mean, we end up getting a bronze medal. I can't complain.
Incredible.
And I had to tell David though, I was like, this project might have to be on hold for a little while longer.
Yeah.
But David and I just kept working on it kind of as a side project. And I'd be training in Boston or in Princeton or in San Diego or in London or whatever.
Yeah.
And David would like pop over to San Diego to the Olympic Training Center and we'd sit there, we'd meet in In-N-Out Burger and we'd write our ideas on napkins. He'd show me like fabric swatches, the latest samples. And it was so much fun. And 2016, I moved to the city and we officially launched the brand like a year or a few months after that, let's say May of 2017.
Did you go straight into having your one store, or did you were you how did you guys exist prior to having a brick and mortar?
So, uh, our very first, you know, chapter of existence, we're basically an e-commerce brand, but we also were in all of like kind of I would say the top, the coolest, the hottest menswear stores in Japan.
Oh wow.
And that was a
Okay.
very weird thing that
It's like
kind of
beams.
happened to us. We were in Beams, we
Yeah,
were in United Arrows,
sure.
we were
Yep.
in United Arrows and Sons, we were in Maidens, we were in Ships, we were in Journal Standard,
Ships, yeah.
Lesage. It was really crazy. And the way that
Wow.
this happened is when we first moved to New York, we got this office in a terrible building. Um, the elevator was like the drop of death. People got injured because the elevator would just
The
fall
Tower of Terror.
like 7 floors. Were getting seriously injured. We'd have to take the stairs
Oh my God.
unless you were like taking your life in your hands. And there was there was it was the biggest human hair emporium in the Western Hemisphere or something was the 2 or 3 stories below us, and they had all these signs that was like the largest human hair emporium in North America or something like that. It was a really weird building though, and in the end we actually had to move out because there was how shall I put this? There were like happy ending massages going
Okay.
on
Sure.
our floor, like 2 units over from our office. And it was like, this is too much. This is like we're trying to have cool people like Esquire editors come check out our collection, and there's like a
Yeah.
bunch of people dressed as fake nurses like in the lobby. This is not good. Dead serious. Dead serious. There was also a guy who lived in one of the offices illegally with a bunch of cats.
Oh
The
my
smell,
gosh.
but between that,
Was this in
th th-
Midtown? Where was this?
this was in Nomad.
Oh wow. Okay.
This was
So
in Nomad,
29th
and this
Street.
was kind
Yeah.
of like an interesting time where, you had um there was a Nomad hotel and
Yeah.
was it the Ace
The
Hotel?
Ace is right around the corner. Yeah.
The Ace. And there were like cool things starting to happen. Then there would be like really high-end restaurant that goes in,
Yep.
but then like all the stuff around it,
The
I don't know if
dregs.
they're fronts or what they are, but they're like, it just like has like a plastic mannequin, like pink plastic mannequin with like, big boobs, and it's just wearing a fishnet.
Yeah, totally.
And that's the whole thing. And you're like, what is this store? How
Yeah.
are they making money to pay rent next to whatever Michelin star restaurant has
Right.
gone in to serve the people coming out of the Nomad Hotel? And you'd look in the buildings around too, and a lot of them had big windows, and you would see it's not like offices in there. It was just looked like junk and cardboard boxes piled up in the windows. It was a very weird time in that neighborhood. I think it's gotten a little bit better, maybe.
Sure.
Not totally though, but a little bit. But anyway, no one knew we hadn't even launched yet, so no one knew we were in this office. And it was a tiny office, and it was so weird too because it's in this gross building, but you go in and it has all of like my like Oxford rowing memorabilia on the walls and
Right.
stuff. And we had this like little chandelier hanging from the ceiling.
Hmm.
It was totally out of place.
Hmm.
It was almost like it was cool because it was so unexpected.
Yeah.
But this guy walked in one day and he said, with the I'm with Pitti Uomo, which is probably the biggest menswear show
Yeah.
in the world. It's in Florence, in Italy, twice a year. And he said, we're doing this thing called Born in the USA, and it's all about brands that are making in the US. And he was like, to be honest, I can't find really anybody or enough people who are making in the USA. He's like, we have a few, but it's like nowhere near what the target number is supposed to
Yeah.
be.
Sure.
And he's like, someone, I don't even remember who it was, but someone told me about you guys, gave me this address. What do you say? Do you want to come show at Pitti Uomo? We didn't even exist yet. We didn't even have a website.
So did they
Um,
pay you
we
to go, or how did
They
that
paid
work?
us to go. They paid
Jesus.
us to go. And normally, by the way, for people who don't know, like Pity, you have to apply. You have to have been in business for a certain number of years. You have to have revenue over certain numbers, and people pay big money to be in this
Yeah,
show.
this is
What
one paved, unbroken Broadway of green lights for you, it seems. Like it's just like this
I'll say,
door.
like, I mean, this is kind of how I like to tell the story because,
This is amazing.
that's sort of how it felt. But I'll also say, like, I do think we were making the right moves and,
Sure.
doing a lot of the right things
You had the
to
product too. Yeah,
put ourselves in that position.
totally.
And the same was true like all the way through. I remember sitting at that In-N-Out Burger near the Olympic Training Center in San Diego, writing on napkins with David, writing like collaborations that we wanted to do one day.
Mm.
Seiko, Barber. I mean, we didn't even dare to dream like to write Gucci or Target, but so many things we wrote on that list did come true. And in many cases, they reached out to us. But they reached out to us because we were we were putting the right stuff out there into the world. Like you looked at our website or you looked at our Instagram once those things existed, and it looked like the kind of thing that those brands would want to be a part of.
Sure.
And we were kind of the only people at that time doing it that way.
Yep.
So I think there's some kismet to it for sure, and there's also like making our own luck. But
Yeah.
this guy is like, come to Pitti. We'll pay you to go. I'll get you an Airbnb. We'll fly you, whatever. And what I didn't realize also though is most of these other brands have huge budgets that they put into their build out.
Yeah.
So they could spend a few $100,000 on
Totally.
like people have like wood paneling, mahogany stuff, or they have something like crazy conceptual that everybody is like taking pictures of and Instagramming. Ours was people have like vintage aircraft to be like, that'll be a cool thing. People want to take a picture of it. Ours was literally nothing. It was like just a
A T
rack.
stand. Yeah.
It was a rack with like six blazers on it. And then we had the book. But it turned out it was so minimal, it looked intentional, and it ended up looking cool.
Wow.
And this guy came, one of the first people to sort of swing by our booth, this Japanese guy, very well dressed. He had this sort of like entourage with him, translator, a bunch of people taking notes, people like photographing and filming everything he was doing. And he must have spent 3, 4 hours with us, talked through every detail of the blazer, every detail of every jacket that we had, like
Wow.
talked him through the book, the whole story. And I didn't know who he was. But the whole rest of the time, over the next few days, we were mobbed the whole time. And what everybody kept saying is like, this is the place that Pogi was talking about, right? You guys are the brand that Pogi likes. And at first I was like, who's Pogi? And then we realized that was Pogi. Okay, who's that? He's the buyer for United Arrows, and he's like one of the most important. He had his own TV show, I think, at one point. He's one of the most important people in Japanese menswear,
Totally.
basically. He invites us to come to Tokyo. We end up going to Tokyo a few weeks later.
Oh my God.
Go to all the United Arrows stores, meet the whole leadership team at United Arrows. We also meet everyone from Popeye Magazine,
Oh, sick.
the editor-in-chief of GQ Japan. I ended up meeting the team from Beams there as well.
Sure.
And it was like before we even had launched a business in the US, we had this big following in Japan. And that's really actually how Rowing Blazers as a brand started.
Yeah. So what did you have on display there? How many blazers or what was the like SKU count,
We
if you want to
probably
call it that?
had like 8
Okay.
blazers, and
Yeah.
then we also did button-down shirts made in USA. They would come with a piece of sandpaper that you could sand the collar. This is an old school thing from kind of mid-century America. Kids who would go to Yale or Princeton or whatever and weren't necessarily from the prep school, they didn't go to Andover and Exeter and St. Mark's,
I was gonna
so
say
on.
Exeter, yeah.
They would, and they'd go to J Press or they'd go to Brooks Brothers or whatever and buy their button-down shirt, but they wanted it to look like they've had it for years, and they've
Yeah.
worn it all the time for years and years and years. And they'd sand the collar down, and they'd sand the edge of the cuff to make it look lived in. And I thought that was a funny concept. Like, let's sell this shirt. It comes with sandpaper. It
Oh,
comes
I
with like a
love this
branded
idea.
piece of
Yeah.
sandpaper. So we had this was like the very early days of the brand.
What's
And
the
it was,
go-to bit sandpaper? Is it 220? Is it what did you
I don't
use?
remember, man, but I remember testing it. I
Yeah.
remember being in the office one day with David in this weird office of ours with like all this different sandpaper, and we're like sanding shirts. I mean, that was the least weird thing going on in that building. But
Yeah, that's
um,
true. Yeah.
and we had some ties. We had these like they were like sort of boiled wool ties
Yeah.
with these embroideries, like a single embroidery that sort of sat below the knot. And the first one, my favorite one, how this came about, there was a club at Oxford called the Oxford University Bath Club. And the Bath Club was basically back when most of the colleges were all men and some of the colleges were all women.
Hmm.
If you sneaked into one of the women's colleges and took a bath, and you would prove it by stealing the like bath stopper, I think, the like, whatever, the
For the
plug
tub. Yeah.
for the tub, you became a member of the Oxford University Bath Club and you would get this tie. And I was like, that's so weird. Like, we have to recreate this tie. And the tie, it's just like a wool navy tie, kind of fluffy, fuzzy, and it has this embroidered yellow or gold faucet on it, like a
That's
little spigot
amazing.
with a
Yeah.
little
Sure.
knob. And I was like, that is just so weird. We have to make that.
So were you telling that story when selling those ties, or
Yeah,
were
yeah. And
so
we had
nobody would
other,
be aware of that already, right? Like you'd
no,
have to
no, but that was
educate.
the thing. Like, that's the whole thing with all of this is like, why the
Yeah.
sandpaper? And you tell
Storytelling.
the story, but that's, the brand obviously grew and transformed and developed over the years.
Yeah.
But in the earliest days of the brand, in the purest sort of version of it,
This is epic.
it
Yeah.
was all of this like sort of cryptic, quirky, like very niche stuff.
That's
But
what
it
I
was
love.
stuff that like Pogie and the people at Popeye magazine and so on, like they loved this stuff. They
Yeah.
loved it. And that's why it resonated in Japan because it was so weird but so authentic. It was so cryptic and there was a story to everything.
That's great.
Yeah.
Was there anything you set out to do with rowing blazers that you didn't accomplish?
We did so many things that were on that list that I never even expected to accomplish.
Okay.
Um, I'd say like one thing though that I'm kind of getting to do now that I
Okay.
had always sort of wanted to do at Rowing Blazers was to develop much more of just like a bread and butter business. Like, yes, we can do the like shirt that has like the fraying edges and the sandpaper and whatever, but I also want to just be like the go-to. I'd love to have a business where we're like a lot of people's go-to
Yeah.
to just get their like basic white shirts and
Right.
blue
Not to
shirts.
peacock. Yeah.
And like we make, in my opinion, at Rowing Blazers, we made excellent, just plain blue, plain white Oxford shirt. We made excellent, just like khakis.
Sure.
But as a business and as a proportion of the business
Hmm.
and the scale, it never became like it's like a lot of people's go-to.
Yeah.
Um, and it's hard. I mean, you have competing sort of priorities, and it takes real time and investment and attention to
Hmm.
develop that kind of business.
Hmm.
And when you have the opportunity of like, okay, well, do I focus on that? Or we have like this opportunity to do a Target collaboration and it's going to be in 2,000 stores and it's going to be men's, women's, kids, pets, home. And at the same time as that, you're also working on like a Gucci collection. Like these are once in a lifetime things potentially. It's like you're going to focus on those things.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
And we just didn't have, I think, the bandwidth to kind of do it all. I think, and the brand is now owned by Chris Birch, who's Tory Burch's ex-husband and co-owner, co-founder of Tory Burch as a,
Yeah.
the brand Tory Burch. And we'll see. I think he's taking it much more women's oriented. It's a little bit
Huh.
of a different beast, but I'm curious to see what Chris does with it. But
Yeah.
now I'm at J Press, and we have very much like this bread and butter business of like where a lot of people's go to Oxford shirt and khaki pants and basic navy blazer and suit and
And have been.
on and
Yeah.
on and on and have been. And it's very exciting. It's very fun. And like now, you know, now that we have like beyond a critical mass in those things, it's about perfecting those things, like
Yeah.
making sure it's the perfect Oxford shirt. It has exactly the right collar roll, that it's as consistent as possible. It's working hard to make sure that the factories, like we make almost, I'd say the vast majority of what we do in the US, including all the Oxford shirts,
Totally.
it's it's making sure that that's going to be able to continue
Yeah.
because we're kind of the last brand standing doing this at this kind of scale. And you're responsible not just for when in my shoes, you're responsible not just for the J Press team, but also for like factory employees at these places where J Press is keeping the factory alive.
Yeah.
So it's a whole exciting new set of challenges, but I'd say like that's probably the one thing that I didn't really get to do at
Yeah.
Rowing Blazers, but I'm getting to do it in a serious way now.
How did you know when to sell? Or what was the decision there?
There are a lot of factors that go into it. I'd say though, just at a high level,
Yeah.
it was never to me like the the last thing I wanted to do. It was never like this is it, like I'm locked in here and this is what I want to do forever.
I see.
I've had so many different chapters of my life and my career. Like what did I do right before that? I was a high school teacher.
Yeah.
I was on the US rowing team. I was an archaeologist. I was in grad school. I was doing all of these different things from,
Hmm.
teaching Latin to
Yeah.
I spent a chapter designing coats of arms. That was my job for a little while,
Wow.
like for the British government. And I knew I wanted to have like a next chapter. It's a bit of a cliche to say, but also the longer you go in a company like that, the farther away as a founder you kind of get from the creative side, the
Yeah.
side that, is sort of why you got into it in the first place. And, I talked a little bit about when I first started, we're doing all this very niche, quirky, cryptic kind of stuff that, it's the kind of stuff that Pogi and those Japanese
We're attracted
buyers
to.
and editors like love. And that's the stuff that I love too. It
Yeah.
gets harder to do that when it's like you have investors and, it's all about the growth trajectory and how fast you can scale and so on. And don't get me wrong, we're still doing great stuff and very cool stuff. And the stuff that we're doing in the final year that I was at the helm of Rowing Blazers was very exciting. That's when we did a Gucci Vault collection.
Hmm.
We did a Target collection. I got really into the watches, which was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And we did Seiko, Tudor, Zodiac, and Tag Heuer all in a single year, like watch collections with each one that I'm designing all those watches.
Unbelievable.
And um,
Were you always a
it,
watch guy? Because you wrote Seiko down on the napkin, you said. So you must have been
I
into
did like
watches.
I like dabbled,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
dabbled.
Okay.
And Eric has always been my watch rabbi, without a
Sure.
doubt. He's my guru. But yeah, like we did such great stuff that year, and also all those things create a lot of revenue for the company,
Hmm.
and so it kind of tees you up that you have a window where you can sell, and the timing also has to be done in concert with your major investors. We had, private equity money in the company, and I think we all saw there was this window of opportunity, and so we took it.
Hmm.
And I think it was a smart move. I think it
Yeah.
was the right thing to do. And um, I'm I'm also very happy that it led me to this next chapter and to being at J Press, which I'm having a lot of fun with.
So they reached out to you, I guess, J Press.
Yeah, and I had known them for a long time because we did a collaboration actually, Rowing Blazers and J Press, way back in 2018,
Okay.
and worked with Jun Murakami, who's the CEO, and Robert Scalero, who's Chief Merchandising Officer, and had known them for ages and ages, and had always kept in touch with them. They looked at potentially even buying Rowing Blazers as well. They're like one of the people we were talking to. Um, in the end, Chris ended up buying Rowing Blazers, but I think there was still interest from J Press in doing something together. And um, J Press is an interesting company because it's an American brand, but it's Japanese owned,
Yeah.
and it's also very big, very popular in Japan.
Yeah.
It's way bigger in Japan than it is in the U.S.
Now, isn't it sort of bifurcated? Don't they have sort of like a Japan wing, if you will? Like, is the
It's a
product?
little confusing, and one of the things that, you know, it takes time to do any of this stuff. But
Yes.
one of the things I'm working on is like trying to sort of make it a little more organized and a little more like digestible and understandable from the outside.
Hmm.
Part of that is actually from the inside. We have to understand what all these different divisions are.
Yeah.
And it's a big company. It's not like just come into this little startup and it's like, oh, let's change this. Let's do this differently. Let's do
Right.
it's a company with a lot of heritage, which respecting the heritage and leaning into it is was always I always knew that was going to be a big part of what I'm doing.
Hmm.
But also like navigating that it's a big company. It's part of an even bigger company.
Yep.
And they have all these different sort of sectors of the business that are some of them are like really on fire. And they
Yeah.
have, there's J Press Japan, there's J Press and Sons,
Oh,
there's
that's what
J
I was thinking
Press,
of. Yeah.
there's J Press Ladies, there's J Press York Street, with which the real sort of menswear heads will know from back in like 2012-ish. In the US, we had something called J Press York Street, which was the Ovadia brothers were the creative directors, and then I think Mark McNary came in.
Yeah.
Um, I think Mark was creative director of J Press, but it was sort of in that era. There's something called J Press York Street that still exists in Japan
Mm.
now too, and there's a whole business of shop in shop J Press that's in department stores all over Japan, and like every single little one of these pieces has like its own Instagram account and its own landing page and its own, and there's a lot to kind of like um organize and untangle. And but the reason they exist is because in many cases like they're doing really well, they're
Yeah.
generating a lot of sales for the company.
Sure.
um but it's confusing when you're just an outsider and you like go to look up J Press on Instagram and it's like, okay, there's like 12 different accounts here, and one of them is like all women, one of them is like looks much more like street than you would ever think for J Press. And then this one looks like very traditional, but everything's in Japanese. There's all these different layers to it.
Yeah.
And that's just another part of the fun, part of the challenge to try to organize. I mean, we're doing a lot. There's a lot to do here, and I think there's a lot of opportunity. Like J Press is probably the biggest comp for J Press historically is Brooks Brothers, which has always been much bigger. J
Hmm.
Press is the kind of more like if you know, you know brand.
Yep.
People think about like who dressed the presidents, and
Hmm.
probably people first think like, well, Brooks Brothers, which is true. And I think, I don't know, like Abe Lincoln was wearing a Brooks Brothers coat or something when he was shot. I think or for his inauguration, he was something like that. There's all this lore, but it's like, yeah, but also J Press. Like pretty much all the presidents who went to Harvard or Yale,
Yeah.
they all wore J Press. And there's a great, I think it's actually downstairs here in the store. I'm here in the store in New Haven. Um, there's a little newspaper article on the wall. George Bush Sr. during a sort of town hall event, someone said, you're such a Brooks Brothers Republican, something like that. And he said, well, now what do you mean by that? And he's like, well, just look at you, the way you talk, your accent, your Yale thing, and head to toe Brooks Brothers, and how are you going to relate to the average American? Something like that was a question.
Okay.
And Bush Sr. goes, now wait just a minute. I'm not wearing a single thing from Brooks Brothers. And he opens up his coat and it has the J Press label inside.
Oh,
And
that's
everybody
amazing.
laughs and it's became a kind of a funny news story that's been repeated over the years. And it's funny in part because what J Press is the like even waspier, even crustier, even more like if you know
Yeah.
establishment kind of brand.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But anyway, all of that aside, I think today we actually have a big opportunity because so many other brands, like Brooks Brothers included, are, they're chasing a different sort of growth
Mm-hmm.
and more power to them. Um, but as far as like the higher end of the market and made in USA, made in Scotland, made in England, working with the really, really premium mills and doing everything the old-fashioned way, like we're kind of it. We're kind of
Yeah.
the last ones out here, and I think that's a big opportunity. It's a big responsibility too, um, and it's exciting.
How do you look at brick and mortar as we're sort of landing this plane? Like, what do you feel is the state of retail right now?
I mean, the state of retail in general and kind of the trajectory. Uh, I think this is nothing so groundbreaking to say, but I think the middle is kind of disappearing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, much to my sadness and regret that that's what is happening with the world. But I think the
Mm-hmm.
middle is largely disappearing, and you have a really kind of bifurcated market where you have the very top end,
Mm-hmm.
and it's luxury. It's got to have a story. It's got to have authenticity. It's got to really have the cred, the chops. It's a brand that was founded 100 plus years ago, or it's offering something that is like so mind blowing and done by hand, and
Mm-hmm.
there's celebrities involved and whatever, or it's, you know, it's the opposite end of the spectrum,
Yeah.
and it's all about, you know, it's all about price and it's all about accessibility, and the middle is kind of, I don't know, disappearing completely, but um, the middle is dissipating
Mm-hmm.
in favor of these two opposite ends of the spectrum. That's what
Yeah.
I kind of see.
Yeah.
Um, and J Press is not like a crazy luxury price point.
Mm-hmm.
I do think it's a luxury in that you can't find made in America, made in England, made in Norway, and with the level of craftsmanship and so on that J Press offers. Um, but it's not at like a true luxury price point.
Right.
And it's something that I think about all the time, all the time. Like I do think a part of the principles that J Press was founded on was like um, providing excellent product at a relatively reasonable price.
Yeah.
Um, that's not something that really most of the world is interested in anymore.
Right. Yeah.
People who have the dough want you to know they have it and that they spent a lot. Conspicuous consumption. And, you know, people who don't want something cheap and easy and, are very price motivated. And it's a shifting landscape for sure.
Yeah.
And still trying to figure out how it really relates to J Press. But in the meantime, I think the biggest thing is to tell the story of the brand to make
Mm-hmm.
people really understand the history, the heritage, the authenticity. So much of what the world takes for granted as like American style
Mm-hmm.
comes from J Press. I mean, there's nothing, to say that rep stripe ties going the wrong way from the British regiments and navy blazers and Oxford cloth and madras and patchwork and tweeds and a hook center vent on the back and a natural shoulder and three roll two and having the locker loop on the back of your shirt are things that mean American style, but they are now. And
Yeah.
it started in no small part with J Press. Brooks Brothers, of course, is a pioneer in a lot of this stuff too, but always a little more business oriented. J Press always a little sportier, a little more campus oriented. And by its nature, starting at Yale, it's kind of the old money aesthetic before, way before that was an Instagram trend, and it's the
Yeah.
real thing. It's not going to Zara and how to look old money. This is
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
real
Yeah.
deal.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's telling the story of the brand as new people start to know and understand what it is. And I think that's where the value is, and that's the way that it's sort of luxury, and it has to do with how and where the product's made too, and the people behind it. I'm maybe you've seen this, or I'm sure I've talked about it before. Like on my second day on the job, I went to our tie factory in New York, and I met this guy, and he goes, I've been making ties for J Press for over 50 years.
Yeah.
I was like, over 50 years. How old are you? And he was like, oh, I don't totally remember, but he's like, I'm about 96.
Okay.
Like you're about 96. I listened to this guy's whole story. Um he's a Holocaust survivor. He was in Auschwitz. He came to this country in the late 40s. He started as like a kid running errands in a tie store on the Lower East Side and worked his way up. And he's done very well. Um, he apprenticed as a tie maker, became a master tie maker, and he ended up buying the building where the tie factory is, which is
Wow.
worth, I don't know,
A
tens
couple
of
million
millions of
bucks. Yeah.
dollars. More. He's the landlord, I think, of like Target's corporate offices in New York. When I used to go, before I ever met him, when we
Wow.
were doing the Rowing Blazers collab with Target, I used to go to their offices in New York. It's the same building.
Wow.
Um, and he's still there. He's still there at 9 o'clock every morning, like cutting ties for J Press.
Now they're
It's like,
still made the same way because, like, look, you used to have what, like seven-fold ties and things like that way back when to sort of like mark a nicer
that's
tie.
that's not very J Press though. J
No, no, it's
Press,
not. But they still make them the same way since back when.
oh yeah,
That's
oh yeah.
amazing.
This guy's been doing it the whole time. I mean, that's what's
Fantastic.
crazy.
That's
And
great.
we make some ties in England and so on as well, but
Sure.
it's made the same way, and in some cases, it's made by the same people
Yeah,
that were
that's
making them 50 years ago, which is crazy.
awesome.
And I embarked on this whole little tour of our factories in, um, you know, all over the Northeast, on the West Coast as well. We have a couple factories in Georgia and in Texas I need to go check out.
Okay.
And I'm about to go on a stint to visit some of our factories in Scotland and in England, which should be pretty exciting. I'm
If
looking
you
forward
don't
to that.
mind sharing, what's made in Texas? Like categorically.
Some of our shirts are made in Texas, some
Oh,
of our
interesting.
wovens,
Okay.
um, and it's one of the things that I love most about J Press is that it's kind of like it's not just America, right? Like we make a lot in the UK as well, and that's a big part of it.
Yeah.
But that it's like it's not just in New York City. It's cool to go see Walter and hang out at the tie factory, but it's like it's kind of like all over
It's all
America.
over. Yeah. Yeah.
It's the
Yeah. Yeah.
South, it's the West Coast, it's the Northeast, it's Pennsylvania. Um, that's part of what's cool.
Cool. Jack, this has been educational, learning about you and your story. I really appreciate you taking the time. Is there anything else you wanted to promote or any questions for me, perhaps?
No, I'm realizing I barely answered your question about retail. We're
Oh, no, it's
just to
totally,
say very briefly, like
yeah,
we're looking at opening new J Press stores. We're going to be opening a new New York flagship,
amazing.
very close to the current one that's at the Yale Club. We're opening a new DC flagship, very close to the one that's been there for whatever 40, 50 years.
Is that in
And
Georgetown?
then I'm a Georgetown grad. I would love for a store in Georgetown to exist, but
Yeah.
J-Press has historically been kind of like near the White House and near the
Okay.
halls of power.
Okay,
I
sure.
I have I have a vision that we'll eventually have two stores in a lot of these cities. Like you have a store in New York that's in the traditional menswear corridor, 44th and Madison,
Yep.
and then you have a store downtown. Maybe you even have a store uptown. Maybe you have a
Yep.
store in Greenwich or whatever too.
Yep.
In DC though, I think you can absolutely have a store downtown and a store in Georgetown
Yep.
eventually. It's going to take time to get there, but
Sure.
I was just in San Francisco and LA looking at retail sites out there and in Chicago. So we are looking to grow our retail footprint for sure. And that's also just another fun thing to be involved with.
Yeah. Is it all, well, just lastly then, on the heels of that, speaking of Chicago, the big trade show, Chicago Collective, do you guys still do like wholesale stuff and go to these shows and sell to other people, or is it all direct now?
So we go as buyers.
I
We go
see.
to meet with mills,
Sure.
and we go there to meet with like Fox Umbrella, the Fox Umbrella guy,
Yeah.
and to look at his, and you can sit there and like design umbrellas. Like I want it to be six different, colors on the umbrella. And no, I don't want this. I want this handle, but can you make it weathered? I just saw my friend Jeremy Hackett in London made some umbrellas with Fox where it's made out of an old polo mallet. Like there are
Oh,
these
wow. That's
great
so cool.
old school, manufacturers
Yeah.
like Fox umbrellas that show up at Chicago Collective, and you can sit there and design whatever you can imagine with them.
Incredible.
And so I had never been to Chicago Collective. I had never heard of it before joining J Press, to be perfectly honest. That just wasn't our world at Rowing Blazers. But now I go twice a year, stay at the racket club, play some court tennis,
Amazing.
meet with all these crazy mills and factories and the Fox Umbrella guy, and it's a blast. I love it.
That's great. Jack, thank you, man. This is awesome.
Thank you so much. This was great.
This wraps up this episode of the Standard H podcast. If you like what you heard, I'd love it if you'd share it with a friend or two. And if you have a moment, please rate and review the show, as it helps others discover these episodes. It absolutely helps far more than you realize. Shout out to Jensen Reed and Super Beautiful for the theme track. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care.